You bought European cars because it looked better than anything else on the forecourt. The badge meant something. The interior felt premium. And then somewhere around 70,000 miles, it started costing you money you did not have. The garage looked baffled. The dealer shrugged. Neither one was going to tell you the truth. That car was never designed to last. The repair bills were a decision made in an engineering meeting long before you even considered buying it. Here are 10 European cars built to fail, and the manufacturers that knew it from day one. Number 1, Renault Laguna 2. 2001 to 2007, the Laguna 2 was everywhere on British roads in the early 2000s. Renault sold them to fleet managers and private buyers who wanted a big, comfortable family car at a sensible price. It was well equipped. Sat-nav, climate control, leather seats on the higher trims, and the Renault name carried enough trust at the time that most people did not ask too many questions. That trust turned out to be completely misleading. The Laguna 2 came with a key card instead of a regular key, a credit card-sized piece of plastic that would randomly decide it did not want to work anymore. It could cut the engine while you were driving. It could refuse to start in a car park. It could lock you out in the rain for absolutely no reason at all. The electronics behind that system caused misfires, unexplained power cuts, and random surges of acceleration that had nothing to do with your right foot. That last one is not an inconvenience. That is a serious safety issue. And it was not just the key card. The rear axle wore out its bushes far too early. The suspension chewed through components. Electrical and suspension faults together made up around 60% of all reported problems on this car. The 2007 Warranty Direct Survey found 52 documented faults per 100 Lagunas on British roads. Renault knew, but they kept selling it anyway. If you are on AutoTrader right now looking at a Laguna because the price seems fair, ask yourself why somebody is selling it. Number 2, Alfa Romeo Mito. 2008 to 2018, the Mito looked incredible, small, sharp, and wearing that Alfa Romeo badge that has been turning heads since before most of us were born. Younger drivers and first-time buyers bought these in big numbers because they felt like a proper driver's car at a price that was actually achievable. The interior was nicer than anything else in the class at that money, and for a while, they were right to be excited. Then the multi-air system started playing up. The multi-air is a unit that sits on top of the engine and controls the air going into it electronically. Alfa sold it as a breakthrough in efficiency. And it was, right up until the moment you were a few weeks late on an oil change. That unit was extremely sensitive to oil quality. Miss a service and you would get rough running, misfires, and a car that would not start on a cold morning in November, which in Britain is most mornings. And that was just the beginning. The TCT dual-clutch gearbox on later models needed software updates every 20,000 to 30,000 kilometers just to keep functioning properly. When it eventually gave up entirely, the replacement cost more than most people paid for the car secondhand. Alfa Romeo's own service documentation described the Mito as a stylish car that required intensive care due to its numerous technical weaknesses. Their words, not mine. Number 3. BMW E65 7 Series. 2001 to 2008, the E65 was BMW's flagship. A full-size luxury saloon stuffed with technology and priced accordingly. People bought these on the used market a few years later, thinking they were getting a 70,000-pound car for 8,000 pounds. What they were actually getting was a 70,000-pound car with a very large repair bill hiding just around the corner. BMW introduced something called iDrive with this generation. One central controller that ran everything: climate, navigation, audio, all of it through one rotary dial and a small screen. The early version froze constantly. It crashed mid-journey. One owner ended up with 26 pages of warranty work before the car was finally rejected, including the suspension, collapsing mid-corner. The air suspension on these cars is notorious. It starts leaking before 100,000 miles. Struts fail, compressors fail. A full rebuild costs several £1,000s and completely ruins your weekend. Owners were getting dashboard warnings asking them to add oil with no leaks visible anywhere because the engine was simply consuming it internally. And in 2018, BMW issued a door latch recall covering 2005 to 2008 models, a full decade after production ended. The E65 is cheap on AutoTrader. It is genuinely expensive to own. Those two facts are not a coincidence. They are directly connected. Number 4, Lancia Delta Integral, 1987 to 1992. The Delta Integral won 6 World Rally Championship manufacturers' titles. 6. In the hands of factory drivers on the most demanding stages in the world, it was genuinely unbeatable. The gravel, the snow, the car dominated all of it. That is not in question. What is in question is whether you can actually live with one as a daily road car on British roads in the real world. For most people, the answer is no. The problem starts with rust. Lancia never properly treated the steel against corrosion. The A-pillars start going first. Then the sills rot from the inside out. Then the rear quarters. Then the floor pan. Then there are the electrics. Water gets into the wiring loom over time and corrodes the connectors. The fault list shifts every time you look at it. You fix one thing and something else appears. Specialists who work on these cars properly advise owners to budget between £2,000 and £3,000 a year in preventive maintenance costs before anything actually breaks. It is a legendary car. It is just not a car for anyone who needs to be somewhere reliably on a Tuesday morning when the weather is bad. Number 5, Citroën C5, 2001 to 2008. The C5 is one of the most comfortable cars ever sold in Britain. The Hydractive hydraulic suspension irons out roads that would shake most other cars to pieces. And the ride quality is unlike anything else you can buy at that price. The problem is keeping it in that condition. The suspension runs at up to 180 bar of pressure through a system of pumps, spheres, and hydraulic lines. When those lines start to leak, which they do, the rear of the car sinks to the ground. Not slowly over days, straight down onto the bump stops. You take it to a garage, they replace the anti-sink valve, you pay for it, and a few hours later the car is sinking again because the actual cause is the main hydraulic pump, which costs between £1,200 and £1,500 to replace. Also, if any previous owner or a well-meaning but uninformed mechanic ever put the wrong fluid in, the internal seals are already gone. You will not find out until the car halts at the worst possible moment. Suspension sphere replacement runs £100 to £150 each, and there are several of them. Brilliant when it works. That is precisely the problem. Number 6, Fiat Multipla, 1998 to 2010. Yes, it is one of the strangest looking cars ever to come out of a factory. Time magazine put it on their list of the 50 worst cars of all time, but underneath that face was actually a genuinely clever idea. 6 adults in a car smaller than a Vauxhall Zafira. For a family on a tight budget who needed maximum space and practicality, the Multipla made real sense on paper. The execution was a completely different story. The 2007 Warranty Direct survey ranked the Multipla 5th from the bottom in Britain with 52 faults per 100 cars on British roads. The ADAC, which is the largest motoring organization in Europe, ranked Fiat as joint worst manufacturer for attended breakdowns in 2001. For a car that was being sold as the sensible, affordable family choice, those numbers are a disaster. The immobilizer and alarm system caused constant problems. J.D. Power surveys year after year criticized the durability of the interior trim and seat materials. The fuel system gave trouble. Fiat's dealer network at the time apparently struggled to properly diagnose most faults without specialist equipment, which meant cars were off the road for days longer than they needed to be. Families who bought these as reliable transport found out fairly quickly that reliable was not really the right word. Clever concept. Not properly finished. If this video is saving you money, do me a favor right now. Hit the like button, drop a comment below telling me which of these cars you have owned or nearly bought, subscribe if you have not already, and hit the notification bell so you never miss one of these, right? Let us keep going because the next 4 are ones a lot of you might be looking at on AutoTrader right now. Number 7. Land Rover Freelander 1 K-Series Petrol, 1997 to 2006. This one is personal for a lot of British buyers. The Freelander was built in Britain and sold as a proper compact off-roader for families who wanted capability without the cost of a full-size Defender. It delivered exactly that promise right up until the engine destroyed itself. The K-Series 1.8-liter petrol was built by Rover. In light cars like the MGF and the Lotus Elise, it was a capable enough unit. Then Land Rover put it into a vehicle that weighed 1,700 kilograms and asked it to tow, climb hills, and sit in traffic every day. The problems followed. The cylinder head gasket failed, not occasionally but routinely. The K-Series engine block was redesigned to accommodate larger capacities, which made it less stiff across the gasket face. The coolant capacity was too small for the application. When the thermostat opened on a hot engine and sent a rush of cold coolant through, the thermal shock cracked the gasket. When the gasket failed, coolant and oil mixed together. The dipstick came up covered in a thick brown paste. A repair on the 1.8 ran between 1,300 and 2,000 pounds. The 2.5 V6 version shared the same family of problems and often needed a complete engine replacement. Land Rover knew. They eventually produced a better multi-layer steel gasket and a revised oil rail to address the problem. And they kept fitting the original parts in production cars while they were developing the fix. The TD4 diesel is a completely different and far more reliable engine. Avoid the K-Series petrol. Simple as that. Number 8, Volkswagen Phaeton W12, 2002 to 2016. The Phaeton is one of the strangest stories in modern car history. Ferdinand Piëch, who ran Volkswagen, set the engineering targets for this car so high that it had to maintain 300 kilometers per hour continuously in 50-degree heat, all the while keeping the cabin at exactly 22 degrees. The interior quality was genuinely exceptional. It was, by any measure, an extraordinary piece of engineering. And nobody in Britain bought it because the badge said Volkswagen. Buyers looked at a 65,000-pound Phaeton and walked straight to the BMW or Mercedes showroom instead. The brand simply could not carry the price tag. Total global production over 15 years was just 84,000 cars. Here is where it gets expensive for anyone tempted by the low prices on the used market today. The W12 uses multiple cooling pumps, and water pump failure beyond 90,000 miles is a widely documented and costly repair. Volkswagen quietly issued a maintenance notice in 2008 saying the gearbox oil needed changing every 30,000 kilometers. Parts are increasingly difficult to source because production numbers were too small to support a proper aftermarket supply chain. Extraordinary engineering, but wrong badge on the bonnet. Number 10. Alfa Romeo 147 and 156 Cell-Speed. 1997 to 2006. The Alfa Romeo 156 won European Car of the Year in 1997. When it launched, car designers who build cars professionally talked about it as though it was a piece of sculpture. The proportions were perfect. The bonnet line was unlike anything else in the class. The way the front grille swept under the headlamps was genuinely original and genuinely beautiful. The 147 hatchback that followed it achieved the same thing in a smaller, more accessible body. And then Alfa gave them the Cell-Speed gearbox. And that is where everything falls apart. Cell-Speed was an automated manual gearbox. It used the internals of a standard manual gearbox, but replaced the clutch pedal with a computer and a hydraulic actuator. You got paddle shifters on the steering wheel, which felt properly sporty and a little bit special. And behind all of that hardware was a small hydraulic actuator unit that was exposed to heat and vibration from the very first mile, and which was going to fail. The only real question was how many miles you would get first. When it did fail, the car would not select gears. You were going nowhere. In some cases, the car would roll freely on any kind of slope because the actuator was also responsible for holding the car in a gear when stationary. And once it gave up, that responsibility went with it. A replacement actuator fitted at a good independent Alfa specialist ran between 800 pounds and 1,200 pounds. That repair bill frequently cost more than the car was worth on the open market. There are clean, carefully looked after, low-mileage Alfa 156. Cell-Speed cars listed on AutoTrader right now at under 800 pounds. The car is worth less than the single repair it has already needed or is about to need. The 156 and the 147 Cell-Speed are the most beautiful cars at the bottom of any reliability list you will ever come across. Built by a company that understood beauty completely and reliability just not quite well enough. If you find one on AutoTrader at a low price and think you have done well, give it 3 months. You have not done well. Every single car on this list was sold to ordinary British buyers with promises the manufacturers had no real intention of keeping. Know what you are buying before you buy it, and if a price looks too good to be true on any of these, it is, because somebody else has already learned that lesson for you. If this video helped you, subscribe and watch the next video on screen right now. We will see you there.